Hi, Ken Wood of K Wood's Tech Talk. I wanted to take a moment and go over the Task Factory Dimension Merge Slowly Changing Dimension. Back in December, I did what was called a Holiday Rush. It was a 9-part series on this component, and I promised I was going to make a video on it. This video is going to be probably pretty short. It's going to be a relatively short video, but it just provides just a brief overview of what the component does, its interior field, so you can actually get a live look at that if you are like me and need to see it done in live action. So as you can see, we have a source, we have an existing dimension. We go ahead and we roll into our SCD component. And in the SCD component, we are given many tabs here. These are the same tabs that you would get through the wizard, or the same processes that you would get through the wizard if you used the old functionality of the slowly changing dimension. We'll show you that old way of doing it here later. But if you can see, we have here the existing dimension input column definitions. Okay, this is where the input columns from the existing dimension come into play. This is where we begin. We have a first name, middle name, last name, and we continue. As you can see, these are SCD1 changes, or non-historical changes, that we will be processing. You can see we have one SCD2 change here. Now, if you wish to change that, that can be done by simply selecting the drop down and selecting what you want it to have been changed to. Again, pretty simple there. We're keeping this as a historical record in our data, and I'll show you how that works later. So right now I'm going to jump into my SSMS. I'm going to show you my existing dimension. And what we're going to do is we're going to clean up this null value. We're going to clean up all this information and only transform or update information that needs to be updated, or keep records that need to be kept. Really, the only thing I have here is null values that's going to be changed. I'll show you how it executes and what the source will look like after that. So here's what we do. We go ahead and go into column mapping. You can see we have our existing dimension and our source system. This is where column mapping takes place. Simply map those columns that we are going to work with. We'll go back to the row change detection. I want to stay on the row change detection tab for a little while. Row change detection tab is where null values are handled. If you've ever worked with the SCD component before and you have bypassed the row change detection, or kind of left it, you may have, and had null values in your data, you may have experienced either freezing of the component, it wasn't succeeding, you may have even gotten an error message. Whatever it was, this is most likely where that issue came into play. You weren't allowing null values in your data, and therefore it was failing for you or wasn't processing. So allowing null values is critical, even if you don't feel as though you have any null values or any of that. You still may want to have this column selected, because if a null value does pop up and it just got under your nose, if you're running a scheduled job, it's going to be a problem if it doesn't succeed for you. So it's always good practice to verify that null values are being allowed in this. I wanted to note that in 3.7.0.715 version of Task Factory is when the null value was a field that was modifiable and was recognized field. Prior, I think, to 3.6 of Task Factory, the null value, this field was not recognized. It was almost the entire tab was just a dummy tab, whether you had it selected or not, and was running. Well, we've updated that. We've made it even better. So now with our new release 4.1.0.115 and previous to that, older version 3.7.0.715, this is working for you, and it is golden product for you. So we go to the SCD2 date handling tab. And in the SCD2 date handling, as it sounds, SCD2 date handling tab, this is where you are given a variety of options for handling SCD2 dates, including assigning now and expiry to system or user-created variables, the ability, really, as the user, to select a granularity that ranges from day to even milliseconds. So you can have precision in there. So for instance, a lot of times individuals will run a package and they'll say, well, wait a second, I have SCD2 date overlapping each other, and really this is where you can handle that also within your SQL table. just simply by decreasing the granularity, to milliseconds so that it's not identical information and that your component can run successfully. So it's really a great thing they've added to it. We move on to the Surrogate Key Handler. Not much you need to worry about here. This is where surrogate keys are handled, but really best business practice is to leave the surrogate key assignment is managed somewhere else as selected. The only other tab we really need to concern ourselves with, unless you have inferred members, is the output column selection. Now, I'll see a lot of packages where people are so 100% certain that they have SCD1 and SCD2 changes, but they're already handled, as you can see, within the updated SCD1 or expired SCD1 with SCD2 with SCD1 changes. So they'll only have those rows marked, ready to go. But what they don't realize is, look, if you have an invalid input, if something's airing out or something's not right, that's going to be sent to the invalid input. And you're going to want to identify that information. Again, you'll run it from a scheduled job, and you'll see that something's failing, something's not happening, it's not executing. It is always a good idea to allow every output column that you have to be set to a destination so you know where that information is going. Now, for unchanged, new, updated SCD1, new SCD2, expired SCD2 with SCD1 changes, you will actually want to set to an actual destination. I'll explain that here in a second, what I mean by that. Now, again, I went ahead and I set every single output I have to include everything. So everything across the board. So I'll go ahead and close this out for you, and I'll show you what I was talking about. As you can see, invalid input. Well, obviously, I'm not going to update an invalid input, so I'm setting it to a task factory terminator destination. The terminator destination is kind of cool because the terminator destination is just a dummy destination. So instead of having to configure, an OLEDB destination or an upsert destination, you don't have to configure anything. You can just click, drag, drop, and connect, and that's it. So I'll go ahead and I'll move into here. I said the updated SCD1. As you can see, I have actually set to an upsert destination because I'm updating information within this package. So we've done that here. I've simply mapped that key. Mapped that key. I've also set it to my new SCD2, expired SCD2 with SCD1, and new columns. So everything is handled here correctly, and it's all set to my existing dimension table. So we'll go ahead, I'll right-click and execute the package. The package should execute successfully. So upon completion, I will go into my SSMS, and I will show you the updates that were made. Boom. As you can see, all of the updates that I had requested were actually already previously made, so really no updates were taking place here. But if there were updates made, you would see them listed here. You can see that I did not include my end date so that the null value is actually completely removed. You don't see any null values in here anymore because those were handled correctly through the row change detection tab I had brought up previously. Now, why is this component such a good option? So much a better option than any other previous versions. Really, here's the answer to that question. If you remember, in my previous blog, I brought this to your attention, the screen print. Well, this is how it was configured previously. This is probably how you're doing it now if you're not using the SCD. But you used a wizard. You set a source and you set the slowly changing dimension, and it walks you through a wizard of how to set everything up. Your derived columns, your OLEDB commands to a destination. That's fine, but it took really long. And what the SCD dimension merge SCD component from Task Factory does now cuts that time more than in half. It's not even a fraction of what it was before. The SCD does two things, two key factors here. It's one, it operates much more proficiently. And two, it's more user-friendly. You have more functionality over it. You have more control over the component. So if you haven't, I would strongly recommend going on to our website, www.pragmaticworks.com, and filling out a request for the trial edition. Just download it from Task Factory Products, Task Factory, download trial version, and put your name and info in there, and just try it out, test it out. It's a full professional version for 14 days, and really would be a good thing to test out. And if you have any questions at all, give me a shout out. Drop a line on my blog. I'll be more than happy to address any of them that you do have. Again, just a very brief video. There's so much more that can go into this and can be done, and I just feel like this would be a good general overview of what the component does itself. So if you have any questions, again, drop a line. We'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.